Hello, welcome back. So we're continuing with our Hawks MC series. We're doing the second story of the Carolina Springs Charter series, and that is Hiding Out. This is not the actual cover art that is supposed to come on the Kindle. I don't know why I didn't get the actual cover art, but that's what I got. So again, I'll make sure I get the cover art on the thumbnail as per usual. So moving forward, I don't think I'm really going to reference profanity and sexually explicit scenes in the trigger warnings anymore. It is so common with contemporary stories now, it's kind of pointless to bring it up. Now, if I am reviewing a story that is a clean or pure story where it has no profanity and has no sexual scenes, then I will point that out and I will probably put it into the review title, just so that you don't get confused as to why I'm not bringing it up anymore. So that being said, the actual trigger warnings for this story include references to human trafficking, assault. I believe there is a murder that takes place, or at least it's close to murder, like they almost kill somebody. There's references to mental and emotional and physical child abuse. If any of these are things that bother you, then you might want to reconsider reading the story. However, as I've stated before, Lila Rose is a very gifted author who is very good with these subject matters. She's very respectful of these issues. The characters always find a way to deal with things, and it's not one of those that they pull a genie and magically they're over it. There is the struggle to get through it, and that's part of the character development. It's part of what makes these books good. And then there's a lot of comedy that are brought in by other characters that are recurring characters, and very kind, loving characters as well. So it really balances the heavy and it makes it a more well-rounded story. So it is handled very well. So if these are not issues for you, or you want to at least try it, I do recommend giving it a shot. The worst that happens is you decide you don't like it. So that being said, let's move on with the actual synopsis. So this is the story of Willow Depora or Defora. It depends on if that letter is a silent or not. So I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong. And Trey Monroe, also known as Dodge. He has since become the president of the Carolina Springs Charter of Hawks MC. So Willow's parents have passed, and she ends up moving in with her cousin. She's been saving up money to try and move out on her own so that she doesn't have to be dependent on anybody anymore. Come to find out that her cousin has not only taken all of her money, but he has sold her to another person. Doesn't go over very well, as it should not. And she manages to escape. And this is where Dodge finds her, in the shop where he and the guys work. They do a lot of automotive work. She managed to find her way into the garage, and she was hiding there, essentially. Dodge was the first one to find her, and she kind of grasped onto him metaphorically, emotionally. He's her safety blanket now, so to speak. She feels safe with him more than anybody else. So she ends up staying with him at his home while the Hawks MC try to find who her owner is. Feels so weird to use that context, so that they can make it safe for her to be on her own again. And of course, throughout the story, as I'm sure you can figure out by now, a romance blooms between Dodge and Willow. It's the first biracial relationship in the Hawks MC, as far as I can tell, which is kind of interesting, and they do work that into the story. There are instances where they come across some prejudice in that way after they've actually developed their relationship. Dodge doesn't really want a relationship. He had a relationship. It didn't go very well. He's very jaded on relationships. Willow doesn't like the idea of depending on anybody for anything. Her parents were not very good parents. They were not reliable. So the relationship, it develops. And I'm not going to say that either of them actively fight it, but it is a struggle. There was a miscommunication that occurred. Dodge happened to walk into a room right after Willow had literally fallen down into another MC member's lap, and he thought that she was making the moves on one of his club brothers, and he gets upset and he flies off the handle, and he had to leave before anything could be corrected between the two of them. So he kind of has to win back her trust after that, because she feels like, I don't want to be with anybody who's just going to jump to the wrong conclusion all the time. Understandably so. So Dodge has to get past his distrust of women. She has to get past her distrust of people in general. And then there's also an added dimension to the mix where Dodge finds out that his sister has basically passed away and she's left 2 children, and he's the only remaining family member. So he goes to get his niece and nephew by the name of Romania, Romy for short. She is somewhere between 8 and 10 years old, I believe. And Texas, who is around like 13 or 14, I think, if I remember correctly. Their mother was not very nice, and while she technically didn't do anything that would cause a government agency to take the children away from her, she did leave scars mentally and emotionally on the children. And Dodge is not terribly happy about it, and neither was Willow. And Willow really went out of her way to try and make sure that the children were comfortable and felt safe. As for the characters, I went over quite a bit of the romantic issues between Dodge and Willow, but some things that really speak well of the characters themselves are the fact that when Dodge first found Willow, it wasn't even a question that the Hawks MC would help her. It's a foregone conclusion for the men of Hawks MC that they're going to help women and children and victims of horrible things. It's, I think to an extent, Talon kind of pushes this because he feels a need to atone for what he did before he turned the club around. And I think there's also an element of it that because Zara in the first book became so well loved by so many people in the book and in the club, that they felt moved to help people after that, after seeing the positive that comes from helping people who have been in those situations. So I think it's very telling of the club as a whole, and it's also very telling of Dodge, that even though he has a distrust of women, even though he wasn't comfortable having Willow in his home for various reasons, he didn't hesitate to have her there. He didn't hesitate to help her. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there was some hesitation of having her specifically in his home because he felt uncomfortable around her. He didn't understand his pull to her, but he didn't hesitate to help her. He just kind of wished he could help her with her staying at the compound. As for Willow, she met Romy and Texas right after that huge misunderstanding between her and Dodge, where she didn't really like Dodge too much at that point. She really hadn't decided if she wanted to give him another chance. But that being said, it did not in any way influence how she interacted with the children. It did not influence how much love and affection she was willing to give those kids. So that speaks very well of her. And we continue to see developments with Josie and Pick and Billy, because again, they all live in Carolina Springs now. And of course, there's always going to be seeding for future relationships. Sometimes it's seeding for the next book. Sometimes it's a seeding for like 2-3 books down the road. It's just done in a very natural, organic way to where you don't really know that it's seeding for a future relationship. It's just there. It's just part of the characters and the world, which I think I said in one of the previous reviews is kind of what you want when you have an ongoing series. It's handled very well, I think. And yes, I do fangirl a lot on the reviews for these stories, and I will continue to do so. If you don't like that, then don't watch them. She's one of my favorite authors and has been for a long time. So, that being said, I think the story overall is very good. It's one of my favorites out of the series, which is saying something because I enjoyed the whole series very thoroughly. I would give this book a 4.6 out of 5 stars. Yep. So, I hope you enjoyed the review. I hope it was helpful with deciding whether or not you want to read this story. I hope that you decide to give it a try. I look forward to seeing you at the next review. You have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.